What's up, everybody? This is Fishers of Men. Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers posted a video recently discussing how we should no longer call Disney's Star Wars Trilogy the Sequel Trilogy. I definitely agree. Honestly, this has been something that's been bouncing around in my head for a while. I have scripts that I started way back in July that specifically say Disney Trilogy instead of Sequel Trilogy. Back when I first started calling it the Disney Trilogy, I wanted to make a video about it, but there were other scripts that were taking precedence, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to just make a short video that would most likely be never seen and be lost to the whims of the almighty YouTube algorithm, or if I wanted to stick it in one of my longer scripts I was working on as a sidebar. I opted for the second one at the time, but now, seeing that Jeremy has posted his video, I've decided to come out and support his line of thinking, even though my reasoning is slightly different than his. In his video, he mentioned a Reddit post that he got his idea from. In that post, one of the main points is that the Disney trilogy is not the original idea that George Lucas had for the sequels. While this is entirely correct, I came to my conclusion that the words Disney trilogy should be used when talking about Disney Star Wars because of the fact that these movies do not seem like an actual sequel. Now, there are multiple reasons I say this, but I'll throw out a few as examples. First and foremost, the characters we see in this trilogy are not natural extensions of the characters that we saw in the original trilogy. The stations, choices, and actions of the characters do not make sense based on what we know of them. They don't even seem like they're the same people. Next, the events that are occurring are not an extension of those that occurred in the original trilogy. The Jedi have not returned, contrary to the title of the sixth film. The Empire disappeared and was replaced by the First Order, which is pretty much the Empire 2.0 with bigger and better weapons, but we have no idea of where they came from, how they have so many resources, or where Snoke came from, because he came out of nowhere with no backstory to speak of. That's not to mention the fact that the movies themselves don't flow together into a cohesive unit. They are extremely disjointed from each other and would have benefited massively from, an overall plan as to the direction of the trilogy when they started out. Ultimately, these movies do not take the ideas, events, and characters that we saw in the prequels and the original trilogy and expand on them in any way. They are not a sequel to the Star Wars trilogies that my generation and my parents' generation grew up with. They are their own separate entity. They are the Disney trilogy. And I've been working on calling them that in my videos, in my scripts, and in my private conversations. Honestly, I was just talking about this tonight with some friends. Kathleen Kennedy gave an interview recently where she said there's no source material for the Disney trilogy, so they've had to make it all up, and it's hard. This is obviously untrue, and any person who's actually a fan of Star Wars knows it. The EU had tons of material they could have adapted, and they chose not to. The new Jedi Order book series would have been a perfect place to start. They could have adapted it so that Luke, Leia, and Han are a bit older and their kids are older. Maybe the OT characters die fighting the Yuzhan Vong if they want to get out of the movies like Harrison Ford did. They could have made billions and billions on a trilogy adapting that, and it could have flowed easily into Legacy of the Force, and then a Disney Plus series about Fate of the Jedi. In off years, they could have done a KOTOR trilogy and a Darth Bane trilogy. There's a wealth of source material for them to make sequel and prequel trilogies for years and years and years, but they threw it away and they handed us garbage. That's why I totally agree with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, because of a disconnected Disney trilogy and because of the lost opportunity for actual sequels. And I think as fans of the original trilogy, as fans of the prequels, as fans of George Lucas, as fans of Star Wars, we need to stop calling the Disney trilogy the sequel trilogy, because it is not a sequel. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to. I am Fishers of Men, and I will talk to you later.